So, have you ever had a dismissive avoidant loved one, perhaps an ex, maybe a good friend or a family member, or maybe you are the dismissive avoidant that can resonate with this concept? But let's say you see this person and you know that something is affecting them. You know that something is bothering them because they are shutting down, they're pulling away, and it seems to kind of come out of the blue, but you know there has to be a cause for it. Well, what I want to cover in this video specifically is how to know when a dismissive avoidant is upset about something and not communicating it to you. So, we're going to cover a few core things, one of them being like why this happens, some symptoms of this, and then what we can actually do if we're on the receiving end of this experience, and also help you understand a little bit about what's going on behind the surface of the dismissive avoidant when they're upset and not saying something about it. So, first and foremost, one of the big things that happens is dismissive avoidance, the vast majority of the time, won't even realize that they're upset at somebody or something. It's almost like they're so disconnected from their feelings and trying to push their feelings so far down that they just start behaving without realizing a feeling is driving that behavior. Now, I want to be clear, feelings always drive behavior. A neuroscientist named Antonio Damasio literally discovered that every single decision we place or take is actually based on our emotional state at the time. So even people who think they're very logical, rational thinkers, they're usually just quick to rationalize or justify things through logic. And they're also usually a little removed from their emotions. So they don't realize that an emotion is driving that decision, which of course ends up being a behavior. So one of the first things that happens is sometimes DAs don't even realize that they're upset. They're just going directly into their behaviors, which look like, and these are the symptoms of a DA being upset and not saying something: withdrawing, stonewalling, being passive aggressive, avoiding somebody, avoiding a conversation, abruptly ending a conversation or shutting it down sort of immediately out of the blue. And of course, these can be other dynamics that cause this, right? It could be that the dismissive avoidant is just preoccupied with something else and they're just dismissive. But when you're seeing these things happen, and especially if you're seeing multiple of these things at once, there's a pretty good chance that a DA is actually upset about something to do with you, but not communicating about it. Now, what happens for a dismissive avoidant internally is historically they've been programmed for so long to think that they can't get their needs met because their associations at a subconscious level to their needs growing up in childhood were negative, right? Like they were neglected. So they didn't get any good feelings when it came to expressing their needs. So their feeling oriented programming connected to the idea of expressing needs is negative. It's bad. It's like, oh, that doesn't work. Don't bother. Don't go there. So it's almost like an unknown at a conscious level that they can even get needs met from other people. And so they won't, as a result of that, often address conflict in an approach oriented way. What they'll tend to do is just feel like this doesn't feel good. So I have to pull away from the thing that's not making me feel good to keep myself feeling okay. And this is all subconscious. This is not necessarily conscious thought that's taking place. Of course, it can be in very rare occasions, but for the vast majority of the time, especially if somebody's not working on themselves or doesn't know about these sorts of things, then it's very unlikely. And so, what essentially will happen is you'll see these passive aggressive behaviors, or you'll see these avoidance oriented strategies, or withdrawing, or stonewalling, or icing out. And all these different things may represent a DA being upset and then not communicating. So, if you're on the receiving end, what do you do if this is happening? And especially if you're not like in an argument, right? If it's not like in the heat of the moment, but you see this and it doesn't make you feel good because you can feel that wall go up or that disconnection between you and somebody you care about. Well, a few really important things. And by the way, as I share these things with you, if you want to do a deep dive into these things and get really masterful at them, I have a course you can check out for free for 14 days, just for a limited time, called the Conflict Communication Course. And it's all about how to master conflict resolution, especially in tricky situations like this. Gives you all the steps you need for communication and how to really execute them. So you can use that link below and check everything out for free for 14 days, as well as webinars. You can join me in there. I'm in there all the time. We do 4 of them a week, and you can ask me your questions live as well. So what you want to do is first, you want to call it out. Now, I don't mean call it out to the dismissive avoidant in like an angry or a volatile way, but you want to address it directly. And you want to say something like, hey, I notice you're not yourself, or I notice you're pulling back a little bit. Is everything okay? Are we good? And this is where, like, whether a DA realizes that they're pulling back because something's bothering them or not, it at least alerts them to their conscious mind's awareness that, oh, yeah, something is going on. Now, sometimes dismissive avoidance will be like, oh, yeah, I'm actually a little bit frustrated about something that happened, right? Or they might say, oh, well, a few days ago, this happened. But more often than not, the first response you're going to see is everything's fine, sort of pushing everything away. And your job is to not make their response to your question the big theme of how this is going to go. Your job is to go, okay, well, I do want to let you know that I sense you pulling back. And if there's something that's bothering you, I would hope that you would come and talk to me about it so we could actually resolve it, because I think that's the healthy thing to do. And I'm here whenever you're ready to discuss. And now what you've done is you've set the tone. You've said, I'm here, I'm ready to work through this. I would hope that you realize that's the healthy thing. And DAs, they really want to tend to do like the logical, rational thing in situations. So even if they're not emotionally ready in the moment, it's something that often helps them to take a moment, sort of think about things and lay them out, and then realize, hey, that's probably the most appropriate approach. And you may go so far as to let the person know, we don't have to like fight about anything, but I would love to hear you out and what's going on so we can solve for it. And so you let them know you're here for like a gentle conversation, something honest, and want them to open up. And to be quite honest, for a relationship to work and really be healthily attached with a DA, communication is going to be a key factor that plays into that. And if you're not able to get there with a DA, you're going to still be connecting in an insecure way. If there's no communication about needs, about feelings, no ability to work through conflict, then unfortunately that connection is going to stay in this like insecure space. So it's such an important thing. And of course, you can't make that person communicate, but you can do 100% in your 50% of the relationship to lay that groundwork and say, here, I'm doing my part. I'm ready if you're ready to communicate. And then it's up to that person to take those preceding steps. So I hope this makes sense. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider giving it a thumbs up or subscribing to this channel. And thank you so much for watching and being here. And I will see you in our next video.